Dear students, welcome back to my channel NB Biology tutorial. I am Professor Namrata Bharati. Today we are going to continue the next part of the modern synthetic theory, that's evolution. We already see the first two parts of the modern synthetic theory. In that the first video we see the genetic variation and in the second video we see the natural selection. So let's continue the third part of the modern synthetic theory, that's isolation. So this isolation is the separation of the population of a particular species into smaller unit which prevents the interbreeding between them. Some barriers which prevents the gene flow for exchange of gene between isolated population is called as the isolating mechanism. Number of isolating mechanisms are operated in numbers, therefore divergence and the speciation may occur. The isolating mechanism is of two types. First one is a geographical isolation and the second one is a reproductive isolation. So first of all we see the geographical isolation. So this geographical isolation, it is also called as a physical isolation. It occurs when an original population is divided into two or the more groups by geographical barrier. Either there is a presence of river, oceans, mountains, or either there is a presence of glaciers. This barrier, it prevents the interbreeding between the isolated groups. The separated groups are exposed to different kinds of environmental factors and are acquired the new traits, means a new characteristic which is forms due to the mutation. The separated population develops distinct pool and they do not interbreed. Thus the new species have been formed by the geographical isolation. It is the most important commonly known example that is says as the Darwin finches. There is the ancestor finches, it is developed it into the various forms as there is a change in the shape of the big body structure as well as the food habit. All these are changes due to the geographical isolation. When the Darwins visited to 11th number of the Galapagos Island, they observed that the vegetarian birds its habit change it into the non-vegetarian birds. The second form of the isolation, that is says as the reproductive isolation. Reproductive isolation is occurred due to the change in the genetic material, gene pool and the structure of genital organ, that is the reproductive organ. They prevent, if there is a change in the reproductive organ, so there is no interbreeding between the population. So this reproductive isolation or this isolating mechanism is of the two types. First one is a PreMatching, that is says as a pre-zygotic isolating mechanism, and the second one is a Postmating or it says as the post-zygotic barriers. In the PreMatching, that is the mechanism prevents fertilization. Prevents means what? Oppose. There is a no fertilization and there is a no formation of the zygote. It's of the four way of the pre-matching forms of the isolating mechanism. The first one, it's a habitat isolation. It is also said as the ecological isolation. Second one is the seasonal isolation known as the temporal isolation. Next one is the ecological isolation or it says as the behavioral isolation. And the last one is a mechanical isolation. First phenomena we see, that is a habitat isolation. This habitat isolation, it is also says as the ecological isolation. So this image, it indicates the ecological isolation. That is the members of population, this is the members of population living in the same geographical region but occupy a separate habitats. So the potential method do not meet. There is a no mating. If there is a no mating, means there is a no formation of zygote. That says as the habitat isolation or the ecological isolation. The second form of isolation, it says as the temporal isolation, or it says as the seasonal isolation. So what's that, the seasonal isolation? Members of population living in the same geographical region. It's present in the same geographical region, but the sexual maturity period is different. The different time these sexes are mature, that is a male and the female, it's mature at the different time. If it is mature at the different time, means there is a no mating phenomena it's occur, then there is a no fertilization, no formation of zygote. That is says as the seasonal isolation, or it says as the temporal isolation. The third phenomena, it says as the ethological isolation, or it says as the behavioral isolation. So in case of this behavioral isolation, due to the specific matting, the members of population do not meet. There is a presence of the specific matting behavior. If the specific matting behavior is there, then there is the no matting phenomena it's occurred in this population. That is says as the behavioral isolation or the ethological isolation. The next form of isolation, that is says as the mechanical isolation. Members of the two population have the different in the structure of reproductive organ, that is the reproductive organ of these organisms are different. Difference in the gonad structure. So it says as the mechanical isolation. The second form of reproductive isolation, that is says as the postmating or the post-zygotic barrier. As what's that term? It's occurred in the three way. First one is the gamete mortality, second one is a zygote mortality, and the third one is a hybrid sterility. The first one is a gamete mortality. In the gametes have the gametes have a limited lifespan due to one or the other reason. If union of the two gametes does not occur in the given time, it results in the gamete mortality. The second one is a zygote mortality. Here the egg is fertilized, but the zygote dies. Means zygote. If the zygote dies, then there is a no development of embryo. What's reason? It says as the post-zygotic barrier, that is a zygote motility. And the third and the most important phenomena, it's a hybrid sterility. As the hybrid is formed, but these hybrid are the sterile, means non-functional. The hybrid develops to maturity, but they become non-functional, they are sterile due to the failure of the proper gametogenesis. There is no formation of the proper gametes. For example, muli, that is a cross between the horse and the donkey. It's a cross between the zebra and the horse. Means the muli, it's an intergeneric hybrid which is sterile one. Hope so you understood it. Thanks for watching my video. Stay tuned to my channel. Thank you.